200 years ago, the wise Rabbi Nachman of Breslau told an interesting parable. Once there was a king with a handsome son who would one day be king. But the prince fell ill, lost his mind completely, and started to believe he was a turkey. He crouched naked under the royal dining room table and would only peck at the crumbs that fell his way. The king and queen were horrified and didn't know what to do. They called in many doctors to examine the turkey prince, but none could offer a cure for this mental condition. Finally, a wise man came to the palace and said to the king, "Let me live here for a while, that I may befriend the prince. Be patient, and I will restore him to health." The wise man went to the dining room, took off his clothes, and crouched down under the table next to the prince. Astonished, the prince looked at him and asked, "Who are you? What are you?" The wise man replied, "I am your friend, a turkey like you. I thought you might be lonely, so I have come here to live with you for a while." So the two turkeys under the table became accustomed to each other. Together they ate the crumbs off the floor and discussed how much better it was to be turkeys than humans. They became friends. Months went by. One day, as the royal family was eating at the table, the wise man gave a signal to the king, and immediately servants placed two beautiful silk robes under the table. Quickly the wise man put on a robe and said, "There are some insecure turkeys who would be afraid to put on a silk robe because they think that might endanger their identity. I'm not like that." The prince thought a moment, nodded his head, and put on a silk robe too. A few weeks later, once again the family was dining, and the wise man gave a signal. The servants brought a nice roast beef with vegetables and baked potatoes and put it all under the table. Immediately the wise man began to eat this people food. He smiled at the prince and said, "Wonderfully delicious! Isn't it good to be a sophisticated turkey who can enjoy the food of people?" The prince immediately agreed and began to eat the roast. A few more weeks went by, and once again the wise man gave a signal and asked for silverware and dishes to be brought. As he began to eat off the china with a knife and fork, he smiled at the turkey prince and said, "Intelligent turkeys can enjoy the food of human beings on the finest dinnerware." The prince, too, began to eat with a knife and fork off the royal china. A few weeks later, during dinner, the wise man got up from under the table, sat down in a chair with the king, and began to have his supper there. He called to the turkey prince under the table and said, "Come up with us. The food is the same as down there, but these chairs are a lot more comfortable. And besides, these poor humans could really benefit from what we turkeys can teach them." So the prince got up, sat down at the royal table, and began to eat like a true prince. For the first time in a long while, he felt like a prince, acted like a prince, and was a prince. A lovely story. But the bad news is, we are the turkeys. We are the ones under the table who think we are just turkeys and can do no more than nibble at crumbs. The Christ came not to exalt himself, but to lift us up and show us that we are so much more than that, to show us that we too are princes and queens and kings. When Jesus is questioned about his kingship, he wants nothing to do with political kingdoms. He says, "My kingdom is not of this world. The kingdom I am talking about is the one inside, the reign of peace and justice, the reign of spirit and truth. God's reign is not the one outside of us, but the one inside of us. And that is so much larger than all the world outside. It is much more difficult to be in possession of the inner kingdom. We are all of us kings, princes, queens. But most of us continue to live as turkeys under the table, not realizing our full potential, not seeing who we truly are. In the Count of Monte Cristo, Napoleon remarks, "In this life we are either kings or pawns, emperors or fools." The choice is ours. Do we wish to continue nibbling, pecking at scraps under the table? Or do we wish to realize our full potential and be the prince we truly are? If we allow the reign of God to take possession of the kingdom of our heart, then we will cease being mere pawns, cease being mere fools, cease being mere turkeys, and become the kings we were meant to be.